back. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. Throughout this week, we've been tracking this all-important state visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the United States. Today has been a day when so much has been looked at. About 5 to 6 important deals. The sixth one is the deal for drones. It's not yet been announced, but perhaps it will be sooner than later. Joining us now to discuss one very important aspect of the deal, the likelihood of an Indian being in space on the US space station, perhaps even next year. And then India as part of the Artemis process. That's something that the United States and NASA are championing. Two wonderful people and close friends, Dr. Amitabh Ghosh and Pallav Bagla. Amitabh, let me come to you first. Let's talk about Artemis, because I think a lot of people want to know about the space station, so we'll keep them hanging for a little while. Let's talk about Artemis, because it is so important for the future of our relationship in space.
Right. So, what is Artemis? So the last 20 years, you have been seeing the space station. So the space station has been the kind of platform to do experiments in space, right? Yes. And so that is about to shift in the next 5 years. And that platform will change from, the space station is about 250 miles from Earth. This will become the moon. So the US is going back to the moon. It's the Artemis program. The first flight of the Space Launch System, or SLS, has already happened. The next will happen where astronauts will go around the moon and come back sometime next year. And then finally there'll be boots on the ground. So it's a huge deal. Like SpaceX is doing the lander, and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin is doing another lander, and there's the Space Launch System. So, you can think of the 1960s, the 70s of the Apollo program. So the moon is going to be the next frontier. Blue Origins is going to try to bring a base, set up a base there. This is going to be a huge project like the International Space Station. So you need international partners come together with a legal framework and in an engagement mechanism. What type of engagement? Why is it even necessary? So there has to be interoperability of various engineering systems so that they can work with each other. Then there has to be some sort of agreement of this is how you're going to, say, previous landing sites, resource utilization, usage of land on the moon. All these very important factors, there has to be some sort of an agreement. So what is the Artemis Accords? It is kind of before you get engaged in this huge project, you kind of are agreeing to the legal framework. That's why it's so very important. If you kind of don't see eye to eye, then it's tougher to come on board as a partner. So The fact that India is signing on is very good. But afterwards, what is the exact collaboration? That is still, unknown.
It's yet to be seen. Pallav, it's interesting that we likely have an India on the International Space Station because we are pursuing our space exploration dreams with two partners. Russia, which has been involved, for example, in the training of Indian astronauts whenever the Gaganyaan program actually happens. And now we will obviously be training with NASA as well. So keeping our options open, also our friendships alive.
Oh, certainly. See, if an Indian goes to the International Space Station on an American spaceship, I think it is going to help both countries. It is largely all about optics between the two countries and the friendship which is being shown. Remember, it was in 1963 when the first rocket which was launched from India was an American rocket. Relations soured in between, but then now relations are picking up again after 60 years. And in between, we also had the Chandrayaan-1 mission, which was a sterling collaboration between India and the US. India was the captain and others were partners. And now, if an Indian can go to the International Space Station, it'll be useful, but one will have to wait and watch as to what kind of science an Indian could do there. India already has its Gaganyaan program, which is to launch an Indian astronaut from Indian soil on an Indian rocket, and that is likely to happen in 2024 in a low Earth orbit. But to go to the International Space Station and also be part of the Artemis program, I think it's an interesting development, but we'll have to wait and watch and see what the nitty-gritty and the fine details are.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you both very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on this very important aspect of the relationship. Thank you very much indeed.